scheduled board for Tuesday, February 20th to order. First, we'll visit the Pledge of Allegiance. Charles, would you please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Public forum, which will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker on any agenda items. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Mary Jo Kistner. I live at 131 Boston Street. I am here to voice my support for the Affordable Housing Commission to be formed in Guilford. I've been on the planning committee since we were doing pre-development work with George Carl, the 2 town planners ago. And this is housing is a challenge. I'm an architect in town, and it's something we desperately need. And I think that this commission is really vital to providing housing options for our community. And so I hope you will favorably on that agenda point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
I'm Christy Rubendens, 221 Fitchill Road, North Guilford, Connecticut. And I am the co-chair of the Affordable Housing Committee in Guilford and one of the founding members. And I just want to echo what MJ has said so eloquently and in support of the ordinances that are going to be proposed.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Item 3, approved minutes. January 31st, 2024 budget workshop. Is there a motion? Second. Let me try your minds. All in favor? Aye. 3.2, February 2nd, 2024. Is there a motion? Any comments or questions? Let me try your minds. All in favor? Aye. That motion carries. 3.3, the February 5th, 2024 regular meeting of the board. Is there a motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Item 4, Finance Director Mary Jane, who is via Zoom today. Mary Jane.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'd like to start with revenues.
Please.
So through the end of January, we are 58.3% through our fiscal year already. We are 92.2% collected compared to 93.2% collected this time last year. Just a couple of items I'd like to highlight. First of all, the town clerk's budget, you'll see that is trending a little bit low, and that is how that department is running this year. So in the fiscal 25 budget, we have a slight reduction in their budget to compensate for that. On the flip side, we have interest income in finance and the fire department, which are trending higher. And you will see an increase in those budgets in FY25. I'll note that Park and Rec it typically trends lower at this point since they bring in the bulk of their revenues come spring. I'll take any questions.
Any questions on finances on the revenue side? MJ, I think we also we tweaked the finance revenues, the interest income for the budget purposes. Looks like we're gonna come in somewhere around 1.1 here. Is
That's correct. So if we trend for the rest of the year, we could bring up to $1.1 million in interest income this year. We did up the budget presented to the Board of Finance at $750,000, which kind of cuts that increase in half. mainly based on uncertainty to where interest rates will be over the next 18 months.
Further?
I just question, do we have any feel for what the trend in town clerk, I know the trend is down. Is there something that we can specifically attribute that to?
Well, you know, we did raise that budget substantially during the end of COVID. If you remember, we had huge increases in sales and changes of homes. So that kind of brought our revenue up. I think we're starting to level that out.
Mostly a real estate transaction issue.
Correct. Yeah, if you look in the detail, recording fees are only at 33% right now, and that's the new deed recordings.
Expenditures, MJ.
I missed that, Matt. You broke up.
Yeah, we can move on to expenditures.
Okay, sorry, you broke up for a second. So on the expenditure side, we are 59% spent, compared to just shy of 60% spent last year. You will note when you look on your report that we have two items that are overdrawn at this point. The first is capital. And so when we have money set aside in fund balance for a lot of capital items. Those items are spent through the general fund budget, and you see here, and then we cover those expenses from that fund balance at the end of the year. So you will see that number be overdrawn. The other is debt. Each year, we use a portion of our premium credits that we receive when we go out to bond. We use those credits to offset some of our interest payments so that we can keep this budget on a level playing field. So once the final February payments are made, we will know exactly what that number is, and I will be coming to both you and the Board of Finance with a transfer to close out those two accounts. Otherwise, all of our departments are trending where we expect them to be at this time, so I will take questions.
Just quickly on fire, which is has been a challenge with salaries.
So fire is trending a little high. Go to it. So our overtime budget is over expended at this point, but our full and part-time salaries are under, and our replacement salaries are at 73% at this point.
Any feel for where that's going to wind up at the end of the year?
Something's done here at the house. You know, at this point, it's really hard to tell. My guess is that it would most likely will be over at the end of the year, but at this point, it's hard to tell how much that will be.
I recall we're probably going to be over on revenue as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and the hope on the expense side is that we're under on full-time salaries to hopefully compensate for some of that. For instance, if we have somebody on workers' comp, we don't pay those salaries, so we save in the full-time salary line, yet we have to cover them through replacements. So we hope that the full-time salaries can compensate for some of the replacements.
Thanks, MJ. Any questions on expenditures? We're not health.
Okay, on the medical side, we did have a low month in January, which was only $885,000. Admin is tracking properly, and this is the first month where we paid we've caught up with our stop loss payments. So you'll see in January that sorry. So you see, they only paid one stop loss payment in January. Speaking of stop loss, we are at $1.6 million, total claims over 75,000 and 70,000 claims covered over 150. We are up 3 members over 75,000, and we are up 1 member covered on the over 150. We are currently awaiting a refund of the first portion of that stop loss, which is about $35,000, as we now have to request reimbursement with the new carrier. Otherwise, we are showing a 1.2 estimated surplus in this in the medical fund. However, the second half of the year, our claims will increase due to our members fulfilling their deductible amounts. Are there any questions?
All right, MJ, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Item 5, Park and Recreation Director Pam Gary. Come on up.
Morning.
Welcome to your first board of selectmen.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Very honored to have been chosen for this position. And I'm in my 4th week.
There you go. Still drinking from a fire.
Right. Here to propose this year's 2024 fireworks bid. Which is 18,500. Same show as we've had in the past, from what I understand. We're really happy with that show and the same company.
And so we've, in the past, we have waived the bidding on this, owing to it as a preferred vendor, particularly since they have met the satisfaction of our fire department.
Last year, we did talk about at some point. Getting it. Is that a possibility?
For this year? I believe so. The difficulty between getting quotes for the show is just, but I do have the shells. So I have the display, how many shells are shot, what the sizes are. So we just have to make sure this show is put into the bid and see. There aren't that many companies out there, so I certainly could jump on that if you need me to.
I agree. So, it doesn't have to be a formal bid document, but just solicitation of quotes.
Quotes.
Yeah.
Sure, I could do that. Yes, we have the date, so I'll move on that quickly.
Okay.
And then how is the process here? I send out the quotes, come back.
Back to you, bring them to us through Tracy would be the most appropriate vehicle. And if you think timeline's an issue, we could always have a special meeting.
I don't think it will be.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump on it quick.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Registrar of Voters is going to take possible action on location for early voting. Gloria, come on up.
Thank you, and I believe you all received the correspondence that was sent. Read it, Public Act number 23.5 requires that the registrar of voters designate a location for early voting. Municipalities with a population of 20,000 or more may designate an additional early voting location. So at this point, both registrars feel that the single location, especially for the primary, will suffice. And we ask that you approve of only one location.
You don't want to cover a couple?
Of the town hall, first floor, in their registrar of voters office.
People will come in. Look what.
Drop
Yes.
them off.
For 4 days early voting from 10 to 6. No, there is a different color ballot for early voting. We chose to have the early voting ballot.
So the point is, the front door will be open at 6.
10 to 6. But that's for the presidential primary. For the general election, it's 14 days. 10 to 6, but 2 of those days are 8 to 8.
It does not apply to the referendum.
Pardon?
It does not apply to the referendum.
No,
And then,
but it does apply to other primaries, and that's 7 days for primary.
so for the primary, you think one location is okay, but for a larger election, for instance, the presidential
Yeah.
election in November.
Well, I think we could maybe in a talk, we could accommodate through the pandemic, we did use the second floor to have everyone come from the back of the building through. We might be able to do that because for the second location, we need a hard wire system. But things are like moving very quickly and different at the state because we're getting a new system. So I have no idea how that's going to.
Yes, I was thinking it would be a second geographical location, like for instance, the Northfield.
Yeah. Yes, it could be another, but we. No, that needed the hard wire. That. The primary, I don't know how that would happen if Tony or IT could do that. I haven't gotten into that, but right now for the April. We only have about 9,000 voters eligible to vote at this point, instead of the 16,000. So we ask your approval for.
Yeah, while we have the opportunity, how many days and it's gonna be open, weekends, what's,
For early voting,
for the early voting?
so for the primary, it will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Good Friday, no, and Easter, no, or else we would have been open that. But they changed the statute for that. Says Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, 10 to 6, and we are putting up flyers and posting that. In November, it'll be 14 days, and I'm not sure it's designated days so that every town will be open at the same time and the same day. And if there's a primary in August, that's 7 days. Into 6 and 8.
We can keep it all straight. Any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to designate the town hall as the early voting location for the primary? I'll make a motion. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try minds, all in favor? Aye. Carries.
Thank you very much. See you again, I guess.
All right, wait, Patrick, Steve, how are you on volunteers, or all workers, if you have or not?
Poll workers, we're setting up for that, and it's that Tuesday evening of the town meeting events, which are. No, I mean, we
To
could,
cover the early voting period, you have resources.
oh, yeah, we feel that we have the several people who will be helping us at early voting, like 4 or 5. You know, this is just, we have no idea how this is gonna be, so we're planning for the worst. You know, as far as people coming in, getting their feet wet. We do have staff for early voting and the polls. And we could use more if people are interested. Okay.
And if they're interested.
The registrar of
Contact the registrar's
voters that
office.
on the town site, it's the email. Okay.
Thank you. Police, engineer, Steve Nightoff, you don't look like Steve. No. Filling in. The 7.1 is discussing possible action on fence replacement between 50 Boston Street, Town Hall South and 18 Graves Avenue.
So I'd like to just present, this is an improvement to the Town Hall South complex. There's a new fence that needs to be installed. It's in an L shape. And Mr. Nydorf, he received bids from 3 different companies. Fence World was at $7,800. Orange Fence was at $7,885. Atlas Fence was at $12,374.90. Facilities manager recommends that Fence World be awarded the project. And this is just a nice cedar fence that'll be in a nice L shape, so.
What was, the purpose of the fence? There's one there already that's falling apart, I guess, but we need the fence.
I believe so from as far as Steve thinks it is, the other one's falling down, so.
This, I think part of the reason the fence is there is to keep people from going from one parking lot across somebody else.
Pretty active municipal use.
Correct. So it could be, if you don't have the fence there, what happens if there's no parking in the complex? People might park on Grave Street and then walking through neighborhoods, their yards and things like that, so. It's needed.
I know you're not Steve, but have we used Fence World?
I know we have with Park and Rec, so we have used that company.
I didn't get Charles's question.
Have we used Fence World? Yeah.
Any further?
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll move.
Second,
Move Fence World.
is there a second?
Second,
Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you very much.
Item 8, Human Resources Director Mitch Goldblatt, 8.1 is to remove from the table and take possible action to allow employees to open a Roth 457 retirement account through voluntary payroll deduction. Mitch, floor is yours.
I think you first have to remove from the table before we can discuss, is that correct?
It is, there needs to be a motion, is there one? Second.
moved, I said.
Let me try your minds. Let me try your minds. All in favor? Aye. That motion carries.
Thank you. Good morning. Going back to where we were at the last meeting when you tabled this issue. We have some requests from some employees who would like to have their voluntary 457 plans be enacted as a Roth IRA. Or Roth 457 as opposed to just a regular 457 account. I've spoken to both of our providers, Corbridge, which is formerly AIG, and Valak. In fact, Steve Rabb is on the screen up there if there's any questions for him, as well as Lincoln Financial, both of whom are capable of doing this, and both of whom would endorse this if it was an idea of if the Board of Selectmen wants to approve this. I've spoken to the Finance Department, and they're able to handle this through payroll. The difference being obviously that this is a voluntary situation where it's not matched by the town. This is just where people put in this today, pre-tax money into a retirement account, in addition to whatever other retirement account they have. This would give them the opportunity to do a Roth 457, which would allow them to put in post-tax money into a 457 account, allowing it to be tax-free when they withdraw it at retirement. That's my request.
And this is all employees' money.
All employees' money, it goes into an account that's in their name, so whenever they leave, the money's theirs. I serve as plan administrator, which just means that I look over the documents and have to sign off if there's any loans taken out, anything like that, but otherwise, it's pretty much handled between the employees, payroll, and the providers, both Corbridge and Lincoln Financial.
So your point is even the admin pieces, well.
There should be no overhead for the town, except for just the administrative work that we do normally.
There's really no downside at all.
I don't think at all. I didn't even know this even existed. There were some employees that had spoken to Steve, who's from Corbridge, requesting this. They had made the request several months ago. It came from one person. I asked that person to see if there was other interest. There was indeed other interest. We had to work out a few things with Corbridge, and I also spoke to our representative Lincoln, and both of whom said they would be able to incorporate this if it was approved. It doesn't already exist, but it would become an opportunity for people for their retirement savings.
Mitch, will this also fall under the recent change to have our traditional
It will.
401k plans monitored by an outside agency?
We will. The outside agency Fiducian is already starting to look into just making sure that all of our retirement packages are being done according to law, and also giving our employees the best that they should be getting with no excessive fees. They'll be looking at that. This will just fall under that same umbrella that they will be looking at, yes. Steve, did I miss anything?
I think you covered it all there, Mitch.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't be there in person.
That's okay. Just want to know if I missed anything, now's your time to chime in.
No, besides the advantages of just going with the Roth, I think We're offering actually the Roth to other municipalities and other organizations in Connecticut. So it's just another option for employees to choose from. But one of the advantages is the, being able to, save on an after-tax basis and down the road, being able to take that money out without paying taxes on that money. But that's pretty much it.
For educational tools for the employees to decide which way is better for them.
Well, we have our representatives come to our benefits fair every year from both organizations. And Steve, I'll plug for him for a second. Steve has come into town several times to meet with employees, made appointments at town hall with police and fire to meet with employees as well. So anytime there's any questions, I do direct them to our representatives. Thank you, Sue.
Anything further? To allow employees to open Roth 457 retirement account through voluntary payroll.
I'll make the motion.
A second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none. We'll try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Mitch,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Steve. Item 9, consider and take possible action on a petition submitted on February 9th, 2024. I think you're all in receipt of that petition and significant number of correspondences through emails to the board member. I had asked Attorney Barrett to render an opinion on the appropriateness of a special town meeting for the purposes as listed. You guys all have the legal opinion here in front of you. I think we'll waive the reading of it. But Pete has concluded that the action requested by the current petition is for the town meeting to mandate a suspension of renovation work at a privately owned property until several itemized conditions have been met. And in his opinion, this is not an action that the town meeting is lawfully authorized to take pursuant to our charter. And nor is it an action that the Board of Selectmen can take to stop the process that has already been approved by planning and zoning. So his final statement is, for the reasons stated above, the board is under no legal obligation to intervene at town meeting as requested in this petition. This position is consistent with past legal opinions provided to the town and is consistent with past action. So, anyone have any comment or questions upon?
If there's anyone here today or in the larger audience that would like to see his full decision, is that available?
We will make it available. So, anything? So,
Is it worth summarizing the gist of the reasoning here?
yeah, would you like to do that?
Not really.
Or this would you like to read?
Well, I guess the concept that selectmen was. There is no duty to convene a meeting unless the object of the petition is lawful and proper. And the fact that there's no action that the town meeting could take to stop or to let someone else stop a private property owner.
Exercising their rights.
Right, exactly.
I think you just said it, that's something. Again, you're right, there is no duty to convene a meeting unless the object of the petition is lawful and proper, and in the estimation of town council, that is not a action that we are lawfully authorized to take. I know that's a disappointment to some, but as I've stated publicly on a number of occasions, we've been negotiating with the App Foundation to provide an informational educational session. We have scheduled the first of those. We are leaving open the possibility for multiple meetings going to the size of some of our meeting rooms. Particularly the fact that we can't get into the high school auditorium because they're in the middle of play production for the evening. So the meeting will take place on February 27th here at the community center in a large room downstairs. We're going to look to see what we can do to provide Zoom capacity down there because that room is not currently equipped for Zoom. But we will look to see if we can add that capacity. Right now, the meeting is scheduled for 7:30, although there is some discussion about moving it to 7 o'clock if we can get the The meeting will be an informational meeting, with a presentation by the App Foundation relative to their services that they offer and are intending to offer here. They will talk about their hours of operation. They will talk about the clients, potential clients that will be here. They will talk about traffic impacts. And they will also talk about some of the concerns related to security that have been raised in so many of the documents that emails that we have seen. So they are prepared to do that. They will entertain questions and answers as part of that meeting as well. So again, 27th here at the Community Center for those folks who want to learn about their organization. And they are, as I said, willing to talk to our community to try to take out some of the uncertainties and some of the fears related to the opening of that facility. And we look forward to hearing their comments. A couple of weeks ago, the App Foundation made a similar type presentation to the Rotary Club. I know there are some Rotary Club members here, and I think there were some people in the audience who were surprised at the significant need for the facility, as well as impressed with the way they are approaching handling. Look to see all of you, or most of you, hopefully, on the 27th at the hearing downstairs.
So just to reiterate, if that meeting, I mean, at some point it will have to end at that night. So if it looks like we need to go on with a second gathering, we will consider that.
Absolutely. The App Foundation has agreed to do as many meetings as is necessary. Okay, item 10, discuss and take possible action to set a public hearing date for March 4th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. at Gilbert Town Hall and via Zoom to consider and act on Affordable Housing Commission and Affordable Trust Fund ordinances.
You know, completely agree with, I'm concerned about, not concerned. The fact that this petition had a specific request.
Yep.
And, Peter, Mr. Barrett said that, the action that this petition requested is not valid, it's not something that the Board of Selectmen, if we had a public hearing, we could decide what they're asking for. So that's all I'm trying to make sure that we don't have to have any, we do not have one.
Now, there are some things that were requested that would potentially be something that could be done outside of a special town meeting. Impact studies, sort of comprehensive background checks, which I don't think we're going to do on the App Foundation. There's no reason we don't do that on any other employees. So there could potentially be some consideration for that, but for what purpose is the question?
I think, having that informational meeting, I think will explain a lot of things that are floating out there right now. Hopefully it'll satisfy some of the answers. I do remember from my days on planning and zoning that, that's a very legal entity. I mean, you don't get to choose what somebody applies for. And I remember specifically, we cannot, planning and zoning commission, not suggest to an applicant that you should do this, or if you want this to pass, you should do that. That is like the ultimate no-no for a zoning commissioner. I remember that from my training back in the day. So, that's why I just wanted, I just got this morning, obviously, that, it's important to me that, that the specific actions of the petition are not something that it's within the purview of the board. We can't say to an applicant, go do this. We can't say to P and Z, no, you shouldn't do this, you should have done that. So I just wanted to make sure that we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's here too. Hopefully the informational meeting will allay some of the fears that are floating out there.
If we were to determine that, in fact, this was appropriate, to the town meeting, we would need to vote. I mean, not in the absence. Anything further? I think we're on to, item 10, which is to set the public hearing date for March 4th, 2024, 8:30 a.m. at the Town Hall.
I'd love to make that motion.
Is there a second?
Affordable Housing Committee, began, I have my trusty historian over here. I believe it started in 2015, and it was a committee appointed, the then board selectmen, and so 9 years later now, we're still meeting and we're still working on developing more affordable housing in our town. We do have some, but we definitely need more. We're working on a specific project in Town Hall. It's a Town Hall South area called the Woodruff property, but that's just hopefully the beginning of more developments like that throughout our town. So we have sort of like grown up now. It's time for us to graduate from being a committee to a commission. And that involves a legal process through the town with a town meeting, which is hopefully we will set that today for our next Board of Selectmen meeting at the beginning. And then along with that, we want to establish an affordable trust fund ordinance, which is here's where I'm going to get like into the weeds a little bit. So I have 3 members of my committee here. I'm co-chair with Christy, Dr. Alex Hoffman behind in the baseball cap, and Mary Jo Kessner, who just recently spoke. And that trust fund would deal with fee in lieu, which is the concept that if a developer comes in and might be required to provide some affordable housing, that developer might choose to make a contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund rather than develop some affordable housing units in the project that person is proposing. So we'd rather have the affordable housing units built, but this is a way that towns have handled this, and then that money grows and can be used for affordable housing needs. So it ends up going to a good place. And I'm going to stop there because I think before I get myself in trouble. So I did mention Christy, Alex, and MJ. Do any of you want to say anything more while we're on this?
Yeah,
Please.
So in the new newly revised and updated P and Z regs, there we included an affordable housing provision which requires 12% in any residential development be allocated for affordable housing. So we tried in that regard to keep that as flexible as possible for developers. They can build within their planned development, they can build off-site, or they can pay a fee in lieu. And that's where the trust fund comes in. And that money would be restricted only to building affordable housing. Affordable housing, just to clarify what that definition is a term of art that is intended to keep a certain percentage of housing deed restricted for a long period of time, which is 40 years, in order to meet the what you might think of as the workforce incomes, and which is determined by the state and our area area median income, so that there are opportunities for people who might be earning less than 80 or 60 or 30% of the local area median income to be able to have their own apartments or houses. So it's affordable housing is a way to diversify our housing stock and make it possible for people who are in our service industries and so forth to be able to live in town and stay in town, as well as in terms of age ranges too, and milestones in your life. So
This is a situation that every state is facing, and Connecticut is well aware that we have a lack of affordable workforce housing in the whole state, and so there's a huge initiative to create more so that we can keep people in our state and have fair rents and fair mortgages for people who are working, and very important to the fabric of our communities, be able to live in the communities where they would like to live in. So, Alex?
I want to clarify that affordable housing is not low-income housing. Affordable housing, and I don't usually talk about this definition, but the term of art, the technical definition is anyone who spends more than 30% of their pre-tax income on housing, which includes basic utilities, is considered housing burdened. And that can happen at any income level, and certainly is true of many, many people within our own community already. And the idea of the state legislation and the work that Sandy and Christy have led for so long is that there are many people who are part of our community who have maybe average or median incomes in their household, or maybe a little below that, and there are not housing options available for them in our community. You can especially think of, and this is selling to a lot of people, that as household income declines, people retire, the housing options and the in terms of what is out there and in terms of what it costs suddenly becomes very real to a lot of people, to their parents, maybe even to their children coming to our community. That is what we are focusing on in this effort. This is not low cost or low income housing. This is affordable housing.
I would just say subsidized, it's not the kind of subsidy.
Thanks for all that clarification. Thank you.
I have a question about the ordinance that we would have.
Yes, Pete has already together.
Well, we'll take.
It's just a question.
Just hold it, we'll answer,
We'll get to
or try it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further? Try your minds, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 11, consider take possible action on a noise control variance application. All right. Bear with me. Sign that. This is the Paul Dossey Care Foundation for their third annual Care Fest, June 15th, 2024. Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Try your minds, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 12, appointments and resignations, 12.1. Pension Committee, is there a motion to accept with appreciation and regret?
Yeah, sure.
You've got it. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Let me, any further comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds, all in favor? Aye. Carries. Same is a resignation from Peter Golitz from the Pension Committee. Is there a motion to, with appreciation and regret?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Let me try your minds, all in favor?
Aye.
Looks like Peter's another one. Everything everywhere.
That's right. Great appreciation. Former colleague of ours on the Board of Finance.
This is just a question, do the pension committee, does that have a term limit like other things?
Yes, it does. Pension Committee does have term limits. But we have also just discovered that there is there's not an issue, but there is a condition about membership participating on the pension committee that you cannot be on any other board or commission.
Yes.
So we're taking a look at that to change that, potentially change that. That's going to require a little bit of work because we've got to change the underlying pension documents because they refer to that very specific item. So.
Wonder what specifically, I know it might be conversation for another day. Trying to think of what would drive that kind of.
I know, well, you weren't here when they put the documents together, but I'm assuming it was so they didn't have political figures who are weighing in on other aspects of the town. I think it's elected officials, right?
Elected, it specifically calls out elected and appointed officials. We're gonna go to we'll discuss at the pension committee tomorrow. As a matter of fact.
Oh, I can see the Yeah, it might be a lot.
Yes, and it unfortunately it may limit our ability to populate that board, so.
Unintended consequences.
Exactly. All right, 12.3. Act on a recommendation to appoint Bernie Lombardi to the Waste Transfer Station Advisory Committee to fill a vacancy for a term to expire June 30th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Yes, second.
Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 13, request for use of town property. 13.1, act on a request from the community nursery school to use the green and to place a sign on the green advertising its Little Folks Fair taking place June 1, 2024 with sign placement 5/18 to 6/1. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Just make the observation that between Little Folks Fair and the Masters, you know, spring is coming, so yeah, it's a good sign.
There you go. So it's moved and seconded. Let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. 13.2, act on a request from the Sarah Foundation to place a sign on the green advertising its Stand Up for Sarah event taking place March 15, 2024. Sign placement 2/21/24 through 3/6/24. Is there a motion?
So,
Second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, let me try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 14, committee reports. Sandy, I think you just gave one.
Yes.
Is there another one?
should I space out at number 11, noise? Sure.
Okay, hold on. Look. So they get it using paper copy, right? Variance application. Yeah, yeah, that's the one we just
Did
did.
we?
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
we
right,
did.
thank you.
You did it very quickly.
The docs,
No,
the
no
docs
problem.
care about. That's another one that's become fairly.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my mind.
No, no, no.
Wandering, I did it.
You can't take your eye off the beautiful good signs. Okay.
Committee report.
Yeah, committee reports, I think we dispensed with that. That was well done by Sandy. Correspondence, anything on correspondence, public works report or the building report?
I have a comment on the public works report.
Okay.
In our heading on the agenda, it says Mr. January. So I thought, are the public works starting to do a calendar for us?
It's like unintended appreciation.
It's monthly report. Never take, but I thought, oh, Mr. January, we missed it. Who's gonna be Mr. February?
David
New public works
Castro has been pretty innovative.
He's honestly a great guy, and now I think he's even greater, you know?
Are you buying the first copy? Good job.
Mr. January, that's great.
Love it. Okay, old business. New business. Public forum. Come on up, since you were the first one at the meeting this morning over at Town Hall.
I'm gonna sit in support.
Peter, I'm good about you. Name and address for the record, please.
So
I'm Susan Leach, 110 Cherry Street, Unit 5, Guilford, and this is Peter Brown.
110 Cherry Street, Unit 8, Guilford, Connecticut. I'm the president of the Guilford Mill Association.
And I'm treasurer. So I'm happy with the town's requirement that we maintain a septic bond be rescinded. And for the best interest of all of us caught in this trap, the whole program be dismantled. I'm asking because although the purpose would appear to have been protection in case of septic failure, the actual outcome is that we have lost so much money with your required poor choice of investment for that bond that we are now less able to replace a failed system than when we started. I've been told that it is because one of our 2 buildings is multifamily housing, that as part of our approval process, the town required us to post a septic bond. So in 2007, we turned over $7,500 to the town and Guilford Savings Bank to be invested on our behalf. Records, but I can say that in 2011, it was in a business CD that we controlled at Guilford Savings Bank, and it was handled that way until 2019. The last CD we had earned 2%. At that time, it was switched by some collaboration I don't understand between the town and Guilford Savings Bank to a statement savings account over which we have no control and which is earning 0.2% interest. The reason I was told was because if we had to take money out of a CD quickly, we would lose money. But we have in fact lost so much money under your policy that it amounts to an equal loss. I wrote a letter to the town protesting this unfair policy in February 21, but I never got an answer. I started again a year or so ago protesting to Selectman Federici, who helped me contact the Health and Finance departments. After my continued prodding, I have been told there's nothing the town can do. The problem is with the bank. Some facts and figures. As of December 31st, 2023, my $7,000 is now a grand total of $9,225. Last year, earning a whopping $18.23 in interest. In 16 years, it has grown approximately 23%. In the meantime, the basic year-over-year inflation rate amounts to about 42%. If you believe the cost of a replacement septic system would only increase by that basic inflation rate, the cost of a new system would be $11,524. But we only have $9,225. So we've lost a grand total of $22,999. From 2007, the stock market has grown from 13,366 to Friday it closed at 38,628, an increase of 289%. So if our money had been invested in a basic stock market fund, we would have 21,675 instead of 9,225. Frankly, I believe the 21,000 is closer to what would be the actual replacement cost these days anyway. Finally, unlike the single family home, which only has one owner who has to come up with the money to replace a failed system, we have 8 owners to share the burden. So we actually are in a better position than many single family homes who incidentally are not burdened with this requirement. Apparently, unable to find a better investment for our money, I suggest you end this program and return our money to us. Right now, we're doing a lot better than you are with our money. For instance, part of our reserves are in a brokerage CD, FDIC insured at JP Morgan at 5%. So please let us manage our own money and stop this failed program.
We'll take a look at it again. There are some states, yeah, please. There are some state statutes that govern some of this.
Yeah, but not all towns do this. Our property manager tells us, so there has to be a way around it.
Yeah, we'll look to see.
It's archaic.
So when did you go into the bodyguard? When did you start being a bodyguard? Thank you.
Thank
you. Well, thanks. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Online, anybody?
Yeah, come on up, please.
My name is Peter Filardi from 110 Riverview Drive. And I just had a question for the Affordable Housing Committee. Because I agree we need affordable housing. But I'm always wondering about density. And I'm wondering, do you have a vision how much development you want to encourage? How much new development, I should say? How many units? I read something published by the town and it seemed to say that maybe our goal is 900 units. We were currently like 200. So are we looking for 700 more units?
I think it's the state guideline, and Matt can chime in, or anyone else besides me, is encouraging particularly suburban towns to have 10% of their total housing stock fall under the affordable formula. So I don't know how that, I can't in my mind translate that into units. I'm sure someone can. But, so that's, you know, and we're at about 2% right now. So we would have a long way to go.
Right.
We would be happy to jump to 3%.
Do we foresee building 900 units in 5 years or something? That seems to me like a
Highly,
big,
highly unlikely.
it just seems like a density traffic.
We do
Nightmare.
have density issues because we're non-septic, we're a septic system, a non-sewer community, which does not allow for density. One of the things that we all need to be aware of is this is a very, very hot issue in Hardin. Last year, there was a plan in play, but there was a proposal in place that we probably would have had to come up with several thousand units of housing had that legislation passed. Fortunately, it did not pass. I hate to say it, fortunately, it didn't pass because of support for housing, but that was draconian. And I think it was agreed throughout the state that it was draconian because communities like ours and much smaller communities would have been forced to put in housing that just they couldn't accommodate, just didn't have the land mass to do it, particularly without sewers. So it's a fine line. In our affordable housing plan that was adopted a year and a half ago, 2 years, almost 2 years, 2022, but it has goals. And goals are goals, right? Realistically, I don't see us getting to 900 within the next couple of years. Right now, we have on the drawing board, there are 16 units over at the Woodruff property. There are 30 units on Hubbard Road that will be affordable of the 100 that are being built. And if you do the math, if you do the set aside, the 30% set aside under 830G, you know, if only 30 of these units are affordable, that means 70% of the units are market rate in order to get those 30. So the challenge is immense. It doesn't mean we can't continue to do something and find the most appropriate places.
Right. And just to be clear, I don't want to, I'm not. I was just like, wow, if we're gonna go from typically building 40 new houses a year, that's our historically, and now we're gonna slam down 900 units in the next 5 or 6 years, that's gonna substantially change our town. So that was my question.
There are a substantial number of housing projects that are in some form of development right now. Some have been approved. Across from the rock pile, there's 100 units there. On State Street, there's 25 units. Up off of Long Hill, there are some 20 units going in on the old Smith farm. There are 2 approved condo units on the west side of town, beyond the rock pile. I hate to keep using that term, but I think everybody knows it, right? So there are a substantial number of housing units that will be coming on the market in the next year, and I think that it's probably close to 250 or 300, depending on what goes in across from the park.
Is every one of them likely to have some set aside for?
It will now. Well, the ones that are to be fully approved after the fact. So the one across the rock pile will definitely have to have affordable. The two condo projects on the west side will not have to. The State Street will not have to have it, and it does not have it today. So this is one of the reasons why we put in what's known as inclusionary zoning contingencies in our zoning code, so that builders have to do a set aside or contribute to the trust.
And just to thank you for this, because you're giving us an opportunity to say this publicly. The 100 one-bedroom apartments on Hubbard Road is perfectly legal under state guidelines of 30G. It's wonderful that there are going to be 30 affordable units there, but it is not the kind of plan that probably would have come forward from the community committee that we need it, but we wouldn't have necessarily said, let's put up 100 apartments in 2 buildings. You know, we wish it could look a little different, but on the other hand, 30 units, 31 bedroom units are going to exist, and they are at an affordable price. That's something, yeah. But some people believe that's a town project. It's not. It's a private developer that has to adhere to town rules through planning and zoning and building, et cetera, but it's not.
As modified by 830G,
Right.
where they get the sort of side steps on.
Right.
I know,
No,
I shouldn't be telling
No,
you.
tell me plenty of.
So that, anybody who sells their property to somebody. Whatever they want within the zoning reg. And
Like
so we added inclusionary zoning. So that if they're going to say, needed to include housing in their regs. Otherwise, that 2% that we have will just keep getting eroded as more market rate. So it's a way to kind of slow things and even.
I was just curious, are we shooting for the 900 units in the next 5 years? We're just, that was my question.
That's a stated goal. It's a housing plan, which suggests to the state that we are attempting to comply with the 10% set aside. But the reality is, we won't.
And we're probably, despite that, we're probably in the upper tier, certainly the upper half of similar communities across the state, certainly suburban towns.
With our 2%, we're always constantly being praised.
Right.
Which is
a
odd.
reflection of what the problem
Yeah.
is. Some towns have very, very little. And it's, I think, as much as anything, the state attacks these things, they're just trying to get everybody's little paradigm shift on the way they're looking at stuff.
Thank you for the
Thank
clarification.
you for being here.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Hands raised on.
My name is Chris Breitner. I live over on 20 Trailwood Drive. Madison Water. The question I have is about the method. Is an impact study done before we allow it?
No, the answer is simply no. It's not required. And we can't require them to provide one either. As of right, one piece of property, zoning code define what they could do. And I know you're supposed to be coming in, you're coming into the office on Thursday, right? Thursday, so.
I saw your thing in the one of the little local Guilford magazines that come in and say, get involved with the budget. So I said, I might as well come here. I did go to the budget committee meeting the other day.
Yes,
And,
that's
the reason I asked this is that even though you say it's not a requirement, will you be doing?
And not, you define an impact study.
Like police.
A lot of comments, but I think this is the kind of thing we should, and everybody has an absolute right to ask and evaluate and consider. And we hope to get to at the meeting, the information meeting with ACT there as well.
So you folks will be there at the end.
Oh,
yeah, 100%.
I'm talking about.
But
But I'm talking.
I won't be, I haven't been away
Well,
in 4
you're
months, but I'm
excused.
gonna miss it. If I can zoom in, I will.
But I'm talking about police and crime.
We've already had conversations with our police chief. At this point, they don't see any significant impacts as a result of it, based on their discussions with the folks in North Haven. Yes, there will be some incidents like there are everywhere. In fact, we're more concerned about the impacts that Target will have relative to the crime rate in Guilford than is on that facility.
Those documents been made available to the public?
I don't think they're impacted, because these are conversations that are taking place. But they will, I think the police commission is actually meeting this week, I think this week. This is one of the topics that they're gonna be discussing. Commission with the.
So it's your feeling as a board, this is not gonna be a major impact for this community? Because I'll tell you why, because, you know, I talked to some neighbors and they said, geez, they shot down Costco and they shot down Burger King, but they let a methadone clinic come into our community. And it's not that people are against the methadone clinic, they're worried.
Yeah.
Now, I know the Biden administration has changed the amount of methadone that can be just given to the patients. The patients will be able to go home with several days worth, maybe even up to 28. They'll also be given higher doses. Some of the problems that people are worried about is that the drug dealers will be there, and as soon as they step off ATPs or APTs property, they're gone. That it becomes the town's problem. Dairy Queen right there, we've got daycare, and those are the issues. Back in August, when we first read about it in the Guilford Courier, my wife said, you know, what's going on? I said, well, the town's gonna probably have informational meetings, get our input, and nothing happened. And we heard there was gonna be a meeting 2 weeks ago. You people were gonna be there. We got there and it was a whole different crew of people. A lot of.
It was organized by, it was organized, it was fine for that person to organize it, but it wasn't a meeting that we selected, set up.
Yeah, obviously. I wish you folks had been there because maybe you have waylaid some of the fears. But I have a feeling that it's gonna.
I think what Matt said is what I think is gonna be the most helpful is to have us at this informational meeting on the 27th, but to have the people from the App Foundation, because they have the experience and the answers. We're just, you know, we've heard the presentation and we're somewhat aware of it, but you can ask all of them. May not like your answers, but they'll be the answers that
Do you
they
think they're gonna put a
experience.
residence there? as
No.
well?
No,
I've heard nothing to the.
What happens if they do? Are we gonna do-
Well, I'm sure that would fit the zoning
yeah,
at that
but
location.
we don't.
So we allow it?
If it's allowable in the zoning code, we will allow. If it's not, it won't be.
They have not mentioned that.
They're not meant to do.
I would sort of just say this, it's important, the entire purpose of zoning bodies is to, in many ways, insulate political activity from land use decisions. So they have an independent charge, they're bound by statutes. They do what they're supposed to do, and if they don't do what they're supposed to do, there's appeal rights that people can attack a decision that's made that doesn't comply with rules and regulations. It's been longstanding.
You know, a statement, excuse me, a statement you made a few minutes ago is what I was trying to address earlier from my experiences on P and Z.
Yeah.
When you said, you know, we block Costco or we block Burger King, those are totally inaccurate statements.
Yeah.
Neither of those things would ever come before the Board of Selectmen. So when, you know, whether it be social media or commentary, make statements like that, that's why we have to have an informational meeting, because those are just inaccurate statements. That's misinformation, okay? Yes, an applicant may or may not potentially have been thinking about coming to Guilford. That doesn't mean this board blocked them or encouraged them. And that's the kind of misinformation that an informational meeting hopefully will, you know, if you come to them with open minds, will clarify.
No, I plan to. It's like I said. in the
No,
beginning,
it wasn't a personal thing. It was kind of trying to adjust.
Well, no, I'm trying to tell you. You know, I came in with an open mind. They said I'm not against this. I know there's people that need to have treatment. It's just the optics out there. What the town has allowed the optics to be. Like I said, we found out in August, we didn't hear anything, all of a sudden, the doom we're having.
Well, for instance, you know, the marijuana or cannabis issue, I mean, we plan multiple public hearing, I mean, meetings to, you know, get that information out to the public. So few people showed up, we didn't even schedule a second one. And, you know, on one side of the coin, you know, the state has legalized cannabis, okay?
But
Of course, you're gonna have treatment.
It's a different issue with the marijuana than it is. Okay, well, I'll go to the meeting.
Hopefully you can come on the 27th for at least 2 minutes.
Oh, I know, we'll be there, man.
See you on Thursday. But
Debbie Demusis, 18 Sugarloaf Road. Again, I wasn't going to speak, but his comments have prompted me to speak. So I think that the main thing about the community about the methadone clinic is that although I understand, I'm a real estate agent, that when someone buys the property, it's their property. That's what we do in the United States. We allow them. Before that property was actually bought, they would have never paid $1.9 million if they didn't think that they had a good chance of a welcoming community. I think that when you or whoever was approached, that's when the community should have been addressed. I think that if we vote for the people in our community and you're our leaders, you may think it's okay and we're a welcoming community, but how does the majority of the people in our community feel? It is true that you've had one meeting on marijuana dispensaries, but I really think I'm asking you to have another. Because on one hand, you're saying we're a welcoming community and you want to address the needs of these people who need the methadone. On the other hand, you want to bring in dispensaries and all that involves, which is an addiction. It's medically known, it's an addiction. What you buy in the dispensary it's more powerful than it used to be years ago. Our children think it's okay if we now, I don't care that the state approved it. It's not healthy for people. When a person is on a drug and they're driving, how do you test them that they're on that drug? They're not walking that line like they have alcohol. Even if they go to a hospital, we've had an incident where someone probably almost died from fentanyl that I know. They were brought to the hospital and they didn't take their blood work because it was too invasive. But yet that person probably was on drugs that were laced with fentanyl. So I am not, no one in our community can say they probably didn't have an incident where a relative or someone is addicted and needs that meth clinic. I don't think Guilford is the right place for it. I don't want it in my backyard. I really wish I had the opportunity to tell the APT Foundation before they thought about purchasing it. Of course, they're gonna have answers. They're gonna sell it. That's what they do. And I have heard, as the other gentleman, that the methadone is more potent. People do come to this clinic because of that reason. And there are other issues. They're not going to tell us their issues. They're not going to tell us their problems. My husband was down in North Haven, right near the other clinic just last week at FedEx. And he said he couldn't believe the amount of traffic during the hours that went in and out of there. So there's only so many parking spaces up there, and not everybody that goes to that clinic possibly will be able to drive. There are many issues. I wish our town had, when APT came to you or you went to APT or whatever it was, I really wish they would have known how the town felt. Maybe they would have felt, we're not welcome there, we won't go to Guilford. And I think what they got was they got the red carpet, so I'm probably over my 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, fine, good. Thank you.
Mirror Lane. I did not hear about this until I'm talking about the methadone clinic. I didn't hear about this until, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. And, what I want to know is, I understand that we're now in a place where the train has left the station pretty much. I want to know what the process was so that we can stop this from happening in the future, because that's all we can do now is look to the future. So what I want to know is, it was a real estate transaction. At that point in time, did they have to state what was going to go in that place? No. So we're going, so this is a zoning thing. So they buy it. When did they have to state that they were going to put in a methadone clinic?
They would have had to apply for a change of business permit, change of business use permit through our planning office. If that was all they were doing, that would have been a staff decision based on the applicable zoning code, which says a medical facility is allowed. That would not even have gone to planning and zoning. It would have been a staff decision, as I said, because it has only use in a commercial zone.
And would it have actually been a decision if it was just a medical facility? What I'm trying to get to is, who sat there, looked at a piece of paper that said methadone clinic and went, yes, that's what I'm trying to figure out, so that.
Planning and zoning did it when the site application was approved.
And when they said medical facility, does planning and zoning have the power to look at what type of medical facility and then say yes or no? So really, it sounds to me like from a true legal process, there was absolutely no place where we could legally have said no. Is that correct?
Well, we could have said no. We could have said no, but we would have subjected ourselves to litigation without question, particularly after an organization has purchased a piece of property with the as of right condition that they could open up that facility there. And then we denied it. We would have been in court within a week.
And if you say we, you mean the planning and zoning?
The planning and zoning and the town, because the town would be defending.
Yeah. I would just make a request, especially if you're going to comment, other people are going to comment to the meeting. Most of the objection, most of the emails we received have been negative against this use of this property. And they seem to be operating from the presumption that a methadone clinic is likely to draw criminal elements, that it's likely to have resale of this drug. And the impact statement argument goes to that to a certain extent. I'd be very interested. I haven't seen one, dozens, I haven't seen one, even the first instance of where that has actually happened with existing App Foundation properties. And I've done a fair digging under this. So some data points that would suggest, not that it's a bad thing that needs to be justified in the eyes of the community, but this is a good thing that has problems, and here's the problems, so how do you address those problems? If somehow reversing the paradigm would be extremely helpful to just me, to understanding what some of the concerns are. I happen to think it's a public health catastrophe that we're dealing with opiate addiction. And methadone, and I've read a lot over the past month and a half now, and have had some prior experience on the topic. Not exhaustive, I'm not an academic, but if and to the extent that there are legitimate concerns, those should be addressed. But the assumption that it's bad and the community needs to prove it's not bad, I think is the reverse way of looking at this problem. I think this is a good, necessary use of a clinic, and where it has failed, I'd be super interested, because then we in the community and anybody who's at this meeting could go to app and say, why did this happen? How do we know that's to me, flipping that paradigm is the magic here. This is a good thing, but these problems exist. How do we address the problems? I'm not telling you how to bring your objections to us and bring whatever you'd like to bring to us, but for me personally, that would be helpful.
And one thing, a lot of this will come out at the 27th meeting, but one point that I felt comfortable about when I listened, because I'm a member of Rotary, the woman, the CEO described that there were over 200 people in Brantford and over 55 people in Guilford that are currently in this program and go either up to wherever, to either North Haven, West Haven, New Haven, or New London. So some of the thing about people coming from New Haven and coming from New London and coming from God knows where, that might be true, but one of the reasons they wanted to open this along the shoreline was there are people in need of this kind of treatment in our communities. And they're going now to places I just said. So, I mean, I suppose somebody from Ohio could come in. I mean, but I think
Accept
really,
anybody.
it's gonna be clients from Brantford, Guilford, Madison, Clinton, Old Saybrook, and Westbrook, and then probably east of the river, they'll continue to go to New London. I mean, I don't know why you would drive out of your way to do this. So, you know, I'm just throwing that out there, because to me, I thought, well, why are they coming here?
But you don't open a methadone clinic in Guilford because of 55 people.
No, you open
And
for
or
the
even
shoreline.
200, I mean, even that, and so I understand that, but what I'm worried about is that we're gonna show up at this meeting. And the only people that are gonna have data are the people that want it there and are gonna manipulate the data. And it's I don't care how much data you have, you can always sway it your way. And I have a friend who's a psychologist and she works at a methadone clinic. And, you know, she goes into the parking lot and she has to look around to make sure she doesn't step on human feces, because they come in, they walk out and they literally take their methadone and they walk over and there's a drug deal on the corner and they swap it. So this is not, I mean, that's the reality, but they're going to say, oh, we have, you know, we have our own security. I don't care about your security in your little building. I care about 400 feet away and somebody dropping off their toddler. So this is, I'm definitely gonna go to that meeting, but I think we all need to walk in with our wide eyes open that everything that they say is going to be swayed in their favor. And I wish that we had somebody that could come with data that is nonpartisan. And I guess that's not gonna happen. So, okay, well, thank you very much. I now understand how this got here, and that does help me.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Christy Rubendance, 221 Fitchhill Road in North Guilford. I just want to say that in terms of the methadone clinic, I've had two nephews, a nephew and a stepnephew, who have had heroin addictions and who have had to at one point or another, or multiple points in their relapses be on methadone, and I've had to take them into North Haven. Father of my stepnephew, you know, I think at one point it was Long Wharf you could go to, but if you have to take the medication on a daily basis and they dispense it and you have to take it inside in order to prevent the sale of the methadone on the street, which is what was happening just 3 years ago. And you have to take that person in every day to take their methadone. And it would be very helpful to the support network of people who are suffering those terrible addictions to be able to come to Guilford. So I know it's a hot topic and I know there are lots of things to consider, but just. It's a real heartache when you have someone in your family or your loved ones who are addicted and you have to do the best you can to take care of them. It would be great help.
Thank you, Chris. One thing I just want to talk about, which was very interesting, the Rotary. This notion that people are going to be handed multiple doses to work out in itself was debunked by arguably an advocate for the program. But the way people are entitled to take multiple doses home is they have been into their recovery and earned the right to do that, have proven over time that they can stay with the program. Those are the ones that are allowed to take doses, multiple doses home, as I think she talked
Right,
about. And in some cases, it takes a couple of years before you get to that, you're allowed to do that. So, and then there's one other point, concern about traffic. They estimate that 80 patients a day will be utilizing this facility. I dare say that between the hours of 6 and 9 o'clock, there are more than 80 cars going to Dunkin' Donuts on the other side of that intersection. All right. The hours of operation are going to be 5:30 in the morning until around 1:30 or 2 o'clock in terms of the dispensing. They have some other wraparound services, mental health services, group meetings, those kind of things, which fall outside of the dispensary. But their estimate is about 80 patients a day. You'll hear more about that at the presentation on the 27th. But some of those things were pretty, pretty elucidating that we were able to. Those are the numbers that they're projecting.
They start so early in the morning because most of these people have jobs. They're trying to get off, they're trying to manage their lives. And so they come early, get their dose and then go up to their jobs. So I thought that was interesting myself. I thought she said 5 o'clock to like 2 o'clock. So half of the time will be very early before I won't be driving by.
Yeah.
It's just, I wish that some of these things had been come out well beforehand, because the optics look like it was snuck in. Under the rug. And that's left a really hard feelings. People like us.
One of the organizers of this, the meeting a couple of weeks ago, and others have refused to acknowledge what we have been saying about this process. I'm going to leave it at that.
I'm calling in on Zoom. Can I have a moment to say something? Hi, my name is Allison Adekanye. And I have 2 children that attend Bright and Early Daycare. They were there when it was Cradles. And my only concern is that, I don't have a fault with the clinic coming to town. I think that the location perhaps is not the best, thing as how it is only about 500 feet from where my children will be during the day when I'm at work. I think it could have been a more industrial type area, but my concern is what's going to be done in terms of safety for the community. I think there's no way that you can say for certain that this is not going to bring some element of criminal behavior. And I'm not saying the people using the clinic themselves, but I know that there is an association with other people, dealers coming, trying to tempt the people or to make deals with them, increased theft and, perhaps drug paraphernalia being around the area. They're right across from Dunkin', not from Dunkin' Donuts, sorry, from Dairy Queen and the gas station. And I just want to know what's going to be done by the community to make sure that they're that there's a safe area there. I mean, my kids are there all day when I'm not, and I just want to know how our police force is going to be able to handle that, or what will be done by the town to ensure that there is not an increased criminal rise in that area.
Allison, for the question. The police chief and I have had some conversations around this, not inconsistent with the way they handle anything. If we see that there is an uptick in crime in that area, or there are issues developing, we will develop a program to ensure that the community is protected. I'm going to give you a little piece of information that people probably kill me on, but on the midnight to 8 o'clock shift, the highest police presence is generally around that intersection.
Right, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Right, so to assume that there isn't already an issue in that area.
I know there is, especially with car thefts at the gas stations. Yeah, I'm aware of that already, yes.
And the police department has modified their protocols or their coverages to accommodate that. Just like they will if something starts to emerge here. And the issue, if something starts to emerge here, we will, and the police department and the selectman's office will be meeting with the App Foundation to say, there are some things that need to be done differently.
Okay, so then my only follow-up question to that is how many things have to happen for that conversation to take place? Like what would be you know what I mean? Like one event, 2 events?
I can't commit to that number, and it depends on the severity of it, et cetera. There's a lot of things that go into the analysis by our police department relative to how they address situations like this.
Okay.
Anyone else? Nope. I'm sorry, did you have another follow-up?
No, it's okay. No, I just, you know, I just worry about my kids, and it's unfortunate. I can't, yeah, anyways, thank you.
Anyone else online that wanted to talk? Okay, hearing none in the room, going once, going twice. Hey, sure you don't want to say something? All right. Thank you. Second. All in favor, let me try your minds. Aye. What it carries. Thank you.